Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with a midweek update in the world of cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And we're going to start with some state news as of yesterday, so thank you, Tom Engel, for reporting this. As breaking news, Missouri Secretary of State just certified that activists did collect enough signatures to place a cannabis legalization initiative on the November ballot. So great news out of Missouri, especially when the decision comes after preliminary county analysis indicated that they failed to do so. So we're seeing more challenging from other states, basically trying to delay or make it more difficult for activists to get their initiative on the ballot. However, happy to report that Missouri has been able to get that done. So we're anticipating Maryland, at least Missouri, two states with large population and successful medical programs that would see a lot of big gains if they shift to adult use legalization as well. And I have no doubt that they likely will, as cannabis won the last election quite largely, or by a landslide. It's likely going to win this one by a landslide. And on top of Missouri and Maryland, we've got news from Marijuana Moment that voters across Wisconsin will see cannabis questions on their ballot in November. So again, love to see this, especially as we push towards November, when multiple municipalities act together and voice their collective will of the residents that they are representing. Madison has a responsibility to listen. So just happy to report that, again, more states are seeing the obvious benefits of ending cannabis prohibition, and so they're taking initiative to put these on the November ballot. And as much as we would love to see another 2022 ballot initiative out of Florida, do you think it's better that we space it out and have a bunch of states legalized in 2022 and then save a big state like Florida for 2024, a state with 21 million people and a massive tourist destination with the ability to bring in over 100 million visitors a year? Let me know what you think in the comments, but good news, and just happy to share this while it's still early. New Florida Cannabis Legalization Initiative filed for 2024 ballot with backing of state's largest medical cannabis company. So obviously we're happy to see this, but for a little more detail on it, wanted to share Jacob summarizing this nicely. Notes on the Florida MJ ballot initiative. Language about being separate from federal law, where the Supreme Court struck down the last initiative, while it calls out medical marijuana treatment centers, the existing cannabis dispensaries right now, to use existing vertical licenses to sell rec MJ. So it'd be much like New Jersey, where existing medical cannabis dispensaries get the first ability to start selling recreational. Would be insanely good for existing license holders. Trulieve, Curaleaf, Verano, Air, all of the MSOs that operate in Florida. But so nonetheless, for more information on all of the little details of this initiative, you can pause to read. But also happy to report news out of New Jersey, as Marijuana Moment highlights. New Jersey Senate President files bill to allow interstate cannabis commerce. I don't think this means much until we see some sort of change at the federal level. It is worth noting that this comes from the Senate President and not a random Senate lawmaker. Plus, it comes from New Jersey, the state that most recently legalized cannabis for adult use, and you best believe that they're already seeing the benefits of ending cannabis prohibition already. And it's got the Senate President thinking ahead, yeah, we want a whole lot more of this. And so a few interesting details to point out. However, the agreement could only be forged if federal law changes, or if the Justice Department issues guidance permitting such activity. So we need some sort of change at the top, but could this be some sort of foreshadowing, as we've seen many senators calling on the DOJ to issue some new guidance towards the industry? So with more adult use cannabis markets coming online in the Northeast region, the legislation is timely proposing to create the policy infrastructure for interstate cannabis commerce that could significantly expand the currently fragmented industry and help resolve possible supply and demand issues. The fact that the bill is also being sponsored by the Senate President, who also championed the state's legalization law, signals that this is a serious legislative endeavor. However, the federal policy conditions that are built into the measure leave questions about the timeline for implementation, even if it's passed. And so could this be just used as a dangling carrot as opposed to actually seeing some sort of change happen? We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out, but the bill itself would take effect immediately upon enactment, but the governor could only initiate the interstate agreements if Congress or the DOJ, who have been complete failures so far, give such activity on the green light. So don't hold your breath. And so you can pause to read for more details on the bill. Otherwise, you can grab the link below in the description if you wanted to read through the whole thing. And the bill is included all the way at the bottom. But just wanted to scroll down to one other thing to highlight how slim the chances of this actually passing are, unless the Dems can pull some ridiculous strings, because the agreements can only be made and executed if 1. Federal law is amended to explicitly allow interstate cannabis commerce. 2. Congress enacts budgetary restrictions that prohibit the use of federal funds to enforce laws against such activity. Then 3. The Justice Department issues an opinion or memorandum allowing or tolerating the commerce or 4, excuse me, the State Attorney General issues a written directive affirming that the implementation of the proposal will not result in significant legal risk to the state, which no reason to believe that it would pose some legal risk. Main thing is just how could the Dems pull this off without ruining the industry completely? And so obviously if they could pull something off like this, it would be massive headlines for the industry and a massive benefit for all the companies and small business owners and minority entrepreneurs involved. So regardless, just happy to see the New Jersey Senate President taking things into his own hands while he can. And so with that, happy to share that Curaleaf reports their second quarter 2022 results. Second quarter 2022 revenue of $338 million, an increase of 8% sequentially and year over year, obviously thanks to some growth out of New Jersey as well, with second quarter 2022 adjusted EBITDA of $86 million, an increase of 18% sequentially and 2% year over year, while generating $12 million of positive operating cash flow for the first half of 2022. And so it seems like for the first half of the year, they are profitable so far. And so can Curaleaf keep that up? We'll have to wait and see if they can manage it through all 4 quarters. But worth highlighting, total revenue for this past quarter, June 30th, 2022, up to $337.5 million, up from last quarter, $313 million, and up from a year ago at this time with $312 million. And so obviously, while Curaleaf is one of the largest MSOs with the most retail footprints, we are seeing that diversification into many different states is definitely helping drive growth, as New Jersey is obviously the big growth driver for this one, as growth profits on cannabis sales up to $174.6 million, up from $153.6 million last quarter and $154.5 million last year at this time. Again, New Jersey wasn't online then, so New Jersey goes a long way to helping, as it helps already improve their gross margin on cannabis sales to 51.9%, up from 49.3% last quarter and then 49.6% a year ago. And so more information if you wanted to pause to read. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing, and this is not advice, so if you wanted to grab the link and go deep dive yourself, it's in the description below, but so you can pause to read for second quarter operating highlights. And then you can also pause to read for the post-second quarter operating highlights. But the one other thing that I just wanted to jump down to highlight is the difference between retail and wholesale. As we've seen with cannabis prices plummeting, wholesale is taking a hit. And so again, the fact that they are very much diversified and have that large footprint in New Jersey was likely the big retail revenue growth driver for this most recent quarter. So just wanted to point that out so you can get a bit more information on Curaleaf down there. But another interesting thing that Curaleaf managed to do was adding Camilo from BTIG, who is now going to be their chief investment officer, I believe, at Curaleaf. And so we'll be curious to see how he looks at price targets from the other side now. So certainly an interesting ad, as today we're excited to announce the addition of 3 key executives to our leadership team who will be joining throughout this month, and then just relaying what I already said. So nonetheless, just interesting as I read many week over week. Camilo from BTIG says this, says that. Well, now he's joining Curaleaf. Do you think he'd be joining Curaleaf if he thinks that this industry is doomed and not going anywhere? Or do you think that he realizes that there's a lot of potential? Let me know in the comments. But lastly, just to highlight as well that on top of all that, Curaleaf announces majority stake and forms strategic partnership with Germany's 420 Pharma, a fully EU GMP and GDP licensed producer and distributor of medical cannabis. So it seems like Curaleaf is taking a page out of old Afria's book as well, buying a German distribution center through the form of a pharmacy, which will help once they legalize for adult use. Continue to expand their medical program, but the deal bolsters Curaleaf's presence and cements strategic advantage in Europe's largest market as Germany readies for adult use. And so today, or as at least yesterday, they announced that Curaleaf International Holdings Limited, the company's European holding company, has signed a definitive agreement to acquire a 55% stake in 420 Pharma GmbH, a fully EU GMP and GDP licensed German producer and distributor of medical cannabis with its own product line. The unique partnership creates a strategic pathway for Curaleaf to acquire complete control of 420 Pharma within 2 years of the commencement of adult use in Germany, and ensures alignment between Curaleaf and 420 Pharma's current management team to rapidly build a best-in-class German business and a strong platform for Germany's eventual adult use market. Now keep in mind this is still early, but Curaleaf's obviously taking the right steps, as Germany currently represents the largest medical cannabis market in Europe, with a total addressable market of over 200 million euro in 2022 and expected to grow to nearly 1 billion euro by the end of 2024 via adult use legalization, which is slated to begin in late 2023 or early 2024, meaning that this deal cannot take place at least until 2025 or 2026. Best case scenario if it takes 2 years after them implementing this finally. And so 420 Pharma is among the largest cannabis operators in Germany with a greater than 10% market share. From its inception, 420 Pharma has focused on bringing top quality flower to market. So more information down here if you wanted to pause to read, or you can grab the link below, but just highlighting that Curaleaf continues to execute and build that footprint in Europe as they're planning what is to come, not what is happening right now. So with that, Sayshu Metacharla does provide his second quarter 2022 earnings takeaways for Curaleaf as well. So not going to go through this whole thing, but just going to leave it here so you can pause to read. From 1 to 3 down here, you can pause to read. And then from 4, the I Thought the Co, all the way down to 7, end of a drag on wholesale revenues. So you can pause to read there. And then from 8 transactions up, all the way down to the bottom of 10, you can pause to read, must be nice. And scroll down from 11, turning to cash flow and BS, all the way down to versatility or verticality for now overall. And then that is end. So that is it for what Sayshu's review is. And with that, I also wanted to just bring you Cannavestments takeaway on Green Thumb's Q2 review. And so while he was in BAM for vacay, so he's late with the GTI Q2 review, a strong start to the Q2 earnings season with AU sales in New Jersey a big driver, and a focus on verticality nationwide to combat price compression, leading to yet another beat on consensus revenue, better margins, and impressive cost control. So more information on Green Thumb Industries' most recent earnings. I featured the press release in my last video if you wanted to check that out, but a lot of good information and a great breakdown here from Cannavestments. Well, thanks for sharing this one. Puff is in Meriden, Connecticut Planning Commission to review proposal for Trulieve cannabis growing facility, as Connecticut is getting ready to launch their adult use program by the end of 2022. And so MSOs are trying to go as vertical as possible to cut costs and scale so that they are less affected by the margin price compression that is affecting wholesale, with Trulieve getting ready for full vertical and processing in Connecticut. So you can grab the whole link below if you're interested in reading, but nonetheless, Trulieve continuing to execute, and they did release their earnings today. I did not have time to go through it and add it into this video, but I will feature their earnings release for Q2 on my Sunday video this week in cannabis news. As Illinois begins issuing new adult use dispensary licenses, thank God, because we've been waiting over a year for this, as recipients include social equity groups incubated by Cresco Labs Seed Initiative. So good to see Cresco's initiative helping small business owners and minority entrepreneurs get started in this industry, as on Monday they announced that Parkway Dispensary LLC and Nevada Labs LLC, both social equity groups supported by the company Seed Initiative, received conditional adult use dispensary licenses as part of the 185 new licenses recently issued by the state of Illinois. And so obviously these are conditional, but it's likely Cresco Labs initiative will help them meet those conditions so that they can get started and start competing with the MSOs in the state. So just to recap, there are only currently 110 dispensaries in operation in Illinois right now. After a year and a half of delays due to lawsuits, the state began issuing conditional adult use dispensary licenses on July 22nd to social equity applicants under the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. And the new licenses will more than double the number of statewide dispensaries from the current number of 110 to 295. And if these dispensaries can come online by 2023, sooner than later, there'll be a massive growth driver to the bottom line for adult use cannabis sales in Illinois for all the MSOs in there. And so with that, some studies. So thank you, Tom Engel, for sharing this obvious one, but just have to relay. New study finds that legal access to real cannabis is associated with significant reductions in poisonings from synthetic cannabinoids like spice and K2, which are illegal and wouldn't exist if cannabis wasn't illegal and we had created a black market for it. So yeah, no shit. When you legalize cannabis, therefore allowing legit businesses to create safe product for your citizens, you get less poisonings. Obviously, the benefits of ending cannabis prohibition speak for themselves. And with that, an interesting one. This one from Biomed Central, the Journal of Cannabis Research, published August 5th, 2022, finding that cannabis consumption is associated with lower COVID-19 severity among hospitalized patients. Interesting findings nonetheless. A retrospective cohort analysis. And so the background, while cannabis is known to have immunomodulatory properties, the clinical consequences of its use on outcomes in COVID-19 have not been extensively evaluated, sadly, because cannabis is still a Schedule I substance. Yet, we aim to assess whether cannabis users hospitalized for COVID-19 had improved outcomes compared to non-users. So thank you for doing the study, whoever had the courage to seek it through. And so results are here. You can pause to read, with the conclusions highlighting this retrospective cohort study suggests that active cannabis users hospitalized with COVID-19 had better clinical outcomes compared with non-users, including decreased need for ICU admission or mechanical ventilation. What do you know? However, our results need to be interpreted with caution given the limitations of a retrospective analysis. Fair enough. Obviously, more studies will be better, and we can't do that till we deschedule cannabis, or at least we can't do that at the scale that we'd like to, but prospective and observational studies will better elucidate the effects of cannabis use in COVID-19 patients. So happy to report these interesting findings. And with that, thanks Todd for sharing this one. Is cannabis may offer relief from menopause symptoms. Is that why more women are taking up cannabis for wellness and other things? We don't know, but the study points to that, as it suggests that medical cannabis use may be common in midlife women experiencing menopause-related symptoms. So more information on the study if you wanted to grab it below. But then interestingly enough, get this. Tom Engel reports, yikes. As of Monday, August 8th, the Biden Justice Department filed a motion. So again, the Biden DOJ, the DOJ that at the beginning we're hoping, could the DOJ issue some guidance that could help the cannabis industry? They filed a motion to dismiss Florida Agricultural Commissioner Nikki Fried's lawsuit that seeks to protect medical cannabis patients' gun rights, arguing it is too dangerous to trust cannabis consumers with firearms. Alcohol, the cause of 40% of crime, while opioids found in the bloodstream of nearly every mass shooter's body? Are you fucking kidding me, the Biden administration? So this is what you want to make sure you do not vote in November. And again, hey, I wanted them to win so that they legalize cannabis. They failed everybody. They did not keep keep their campaign promises, I would never want to see any of the Dems that hold power right now with the ability to hold power again. But the good news is that Nikki Fried has a head on her shoulders, and she responded saying, so you're saying that you can't trust cancer patients with guns? Because that's a pretty bold claim from the Biden DOJ to make. And so, again, we're not living in the America that I grew up admiring, but we're living in some strange times. I do believe we will bounce back from this, but highlighting that the Biden administration has officially lost their fucking marbles. And with that, happy to share, though, from Marijuana Moment, that Congressman says his cannabis expungement bills could be adjunct to reform package with banking. I'm just happy to join the battle, join the fight, and lend my experience and expertise. And this comes from Rep. Troy Carter from Louisiana. So thank you, Troy Carter, for the hard work that you're doing as you helped write up the Climb Act, which we could see as a piece added to the Safe Banking Act from now until November if the Dems decide to keep any of their campaign promises. And why that is needed is because without Safe, the problems persist. As Nats Fertig, who writes for Political, shares, break-ins continue at cannabis shops. This time, 100K in products stolen, 1 Ellen stolen, not 2 Nats, from a store in Oakland. And if you can believe that, you don't solve the issue. We've got more people dying from armed robberies and organized crime targeting these dispensaries. Plus, do you think small business owners and minority entrepreneurs can suffer a 100K loss in a day and then continue to operate profitably in the coming months? Likely not. And so this nonsense needs to end. Safe should have passed a year ago. Get this done, Dems, you fucking failures. And so with that, though, optimism to bounce back from that. Thanks, Todd, for sharing what Beacon has to say on Safe Banking Plus. And so this sort of recaps everything I said last week about Booker changing his tone as Senator Booker's comments look increasingly bullish for Safe. And so you can pause to read for more information. Well, we've got this one from Dennis Rudev sharing Safe Banking Act probability to pass this year is gradually increasing. This source is Cowen Insight. Personal view, we should expect some good language form of cannabis legislation by the end of 2022 this fall. And so more information if you wanted to pause to read the Cowen Insights, what is happening, and then our view. We got a lot of snippets here, and so you can pause to read. Otherwise, I'll just share this snippet here. You can pause to read from cannabis policy down to records cleared. And then also you can read from records cleared all the way down to the bottom. This was posted on Monday from, again, I think it was Cowen Insight. And with that, we've got another one from Dennis Rudev sharing cannabis market highlights by Echelon, MSO gang. And so thank you, Dennis, for sharing this one. And again, this is still speculation, so take these all with a grain of salt. But cannabis market highlights, U.S. MSOs kick off Q2 2022 earnings seasons. Early July state sales data looks promising, thanks to that help from New Jersey finally launching later, or, finally launching after all that wait. And so you can pause to read for more information. And this apparently seems to come from S&P Capital IQ, Echelon, as he mentioned earlier. And so with that, we've got one more updated cannabis valuations comp sheet based on latest estimates from Echelon, the source. And so they don't actually provide which day that these estimates are from. You could probably try and, match the latest closing price to when, the share price was at that. But nonetheless, this highlights large cap Canadian cannabis companies, large cap US companies, Canadian retailers, small and mid cap Canadian growers, and then small cap US companies as well, with a lot of metrics across the board, especially their enterprise value divided by sales. Looking at 2021, 2022, and 2023, and then enterprise value divided by estimates 2021, 2022, and 2023. So you can pause to read. But again, this is the most up-to-date from, I believe it was Echelon, he said. Yes, Echelon. So with the most up-to-date statistics and information you should have down there. And so lastly, happy to share from Todd Harrison that the Kenyan presidential wildcard plans 4-day weeks and cannabis farms. And so just wanted to share this as, more countries are practicing common sense, and 1 in 4 frontline presidential candidates is hoping to become the 5th elected president and solve the country's debt burden by legalizing cannabis. I imagine that would help a long way. I don't think exporting hyena testicles will go a long way to fighting the debt burden. Legalizing cannabis, though, definitely a good initiative. And so while I don't think this will mean much, just happy to share that, some leaders somewhere are practicing common sense. And with that, wanted to share Pink Horse Capital Research. Thank you for making all these forms easily available and accessible in one place for me and my audience to grab them. And while I have not read through the 10Ks yet, mostly because I just don't know where to find them, I know that all the GOATs, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Peter Lynch, do say that it's very important to read through these because this is often where you'll find any information that they leave out of the press releases. And so I do encourage you, if you're invested, I've not read through Trulieve's, Cresco's, or Verano's yet, as I do own shares, but I do plan on it. But regardless, top 5 Tier 1 MSOs, the link to their 10K, 40F, and annual information forms are all below for Green Thumb Industries, Curaleaf, Trulieve, Verano, and Cresco Labs. And so I do recommend grabbing this link below so you can check those out, because obviously the more you know, the more comfortable you can make investment decisions and the better you can feel about having made those decisions, so that it doesn't, interrupt with your emotions and make you make short-term decisions after that you're going to eventually regret. And that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.